everybody, welcome back. This is Miss Faye and this is my world. Today's topic is you must set boundaries. You have got to set some boundaries. Before we get started, I want to say welcome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to all the new viewers, all the new subscribers, and welcome to you who have been with me from the beginning. I really appreciate you. Now let's dive into this message. Boundaries. Because, a lot of us don't even know what we're talking about when we say you gotta set boundaries. Okay? So let's see here. What is a boundary? A boundary is an invisible line that separates two people. The boundary puts distance between your needs, feelings, and your responsibilities, and the responsibilities of others. So it's just like, you have a fence between your home, you and the neighbor's home. There's a fence there, and that boundary is to keep the neighbor on his side and you on your side. The boundary. You have to have boundaries. Now, many of us are empaths, and empaths have an issue with setting boundaries, and I'll tell you why. And I'm an empath, and I can attest to this. The empath hates to say no to people. That's the bottom line. We hate to say no. When people ask us for something, and I don't care what it is, even if it puts us out in some way, we'll say yes. We just hate to say no. And it's not because, I believe the real reason why we hate to say no is because we're looking at the other person's feelings, not our own. We're putting our own feelings aside, and we're worried about how the other person is going to feel if you say no. I struggle with this a lot in my life, saying no. I didn't view myself as a people pleaser, but people who were close to me, anything they asked me for, I tried my best to provide it. Any way I could. I hated to say no. And I hated to ask people for anything, period. I don't like asking, and I don't like saying no. But on my spiritual journey, I had to learn to say no and block people. That's it. I had to learn that on my spiritual journey. Now I don't feel guilty or anything when I've said no to people, but I understand that I have to protect my own energy. And if you allow people to cross your boundaries, or if you have any things that you don't want people to do to you, if you allow that to happen, more of it will happen. They will never stop because they don't even realize that they've done something that you don't agree with. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So you set boundaries to just tell people, I don't want that. Now, for instance, the last person that I attempted to date, I told him that I require monogamy. I told him straight up, I require monogamy. Now, if you can't comply to that, then keep it moving. You understand? That is a solid boundary, and I don't flex on that. You see, they say some boundaries should be a little flexible so you don't, block everybody out from that. But when it comes to me and monogamy, that is a non-flexible boundary. You break it, you out. Okay? Now, let's look at something else about the boundaries. Now, the information that I'm sharing with you about boundaries, you're going to find in this book. I recommended a book before, and it was called The Empath. This book is part 2. It's the Empowered Empath. So if you're an empath and you got 1, you definitely need 2. 2 some very specific things that will help the empath. All right? For those of you who know that you are empaths, you know, it's some people who don't know that there are empaths. This was the first book that I introduced, The Empath. And in this volume, it tells you the basics of what an empath is. And I'm going to read it here. An empath is a person with an open spirit. They unconsciously sense things in the unseen and the seen realms to the point where it can become burdensome. Now, the empath feels and senses others' emotions, and this can become an issue. It talks about the many gifts that come along with the empath, and some gifts are stronger than others, you know, like emotional healing, telepathy, and a slew of other gifts that come with the empath. You see? And this book is the foundation. And here's the topping. Right here. Powerful. You go into your relationships and you don't set any boundaries. The person is just going to do what they normally do. You know, they're going to feel like you don't care what they do. But when you don't set boundaries, it really is adding to your own downfall in a relationship. But when you set boundaries, it shows that you care about yourself. You love yourself. You set boundaries. You don't allow people to take advantage of you and railroad you. That's why it's so important for you to know boundaries, how to set boundaries, and how to make sure that you act if somebody steps over your boundary. If somebody oversteps your boundary, then there are consequences. They need to know there are going to be consequences if you do this in our relationship. And if they do that, then you have to act on it. All right? But set boundaries and don't settle. No, don't settle. If this is your boundary, for instance, my boundary is monogamy, like I said. If I'm dating somebody and I find out that they cheated, that's it. You didn't understand what monogamy is? I'm not going to tolerate that. You understand? This is a boundary. So, this is the first one, The Empath. And in the description, you'll find a link to both of these books. This is the first one, and this is the second one, The Empowered Empath. Okay? Now, let's go on with setting boundaries. You know, some people find it very difficult to set boundaries. And here are some reasons why. Fear. Fear of how other people are going to feel, how they're going to take it. You don't like confusion, so you don't want a fight to break out. So you fear the consequences if you set boundaries. You may have low self-esteem. You know, you really don't feel like you're worth it to set this kind of boundary. All right, so see, all of these reasons are coming inside of you. It's the way that you feel about yourself. And you don't know how to set boundaries. You are a people pleaser. You know, I hate that term, but it can be true. You want to please people instead of pleasing yourself. Now, it also tells the benefits of overcoming the fear of setting boundaries. The more you set boundaries, the better you become. It says in here, practice makes perfect. So get in the habit of setting boundaries. Get to know yourself. And setting boundaries is good for everyone because it breaks down on any kind of confusion. Everybody is clear about what's going on and the consequences and so forth. Also, it's healthy for your self-love, just like my cap says today. Self-love is healthy because you begin to value yourself. You know your worth and you project that, and other people will pick that up and they will respect you more because you stand your ground. Don't allow people to disrespect you or take advantage of you. In here it tells you how to set boundaries, the right language, how not to be confrontational, and how not to compromise. It covers it. This is wonderful for you to have. Both of them. The empath tells you about your gift. Because see, being an empath is actually a gift from the universe. That you can read others' emotions. It's a powerful gift. It says here, and I am reading from this book, The Empowered Empath. It says here that the truth is that you are doing more harm than good to yourself when you don't set boundaries. You're doing more harm to yourself when you don't set boundaries. Because people will cross your boundaries if you haven't spoken up about them. Now, a lot of times, we don't go into situations knowing what our boundaries are, unless it's something like my boundary. I know that one for sure. But we go in a situation not thinking about, some boundaries that we have. We don't think about it until an instance comes up in the relationship. Now you want to set a boundary, say, I don't accept that. Don't do that anymore. Or that's a boundary. You got a consequence. You set it up. Once the incident happens, the person understands. Give the person a chance to comply, because if the person doesn't comply, well, then you ought to end it right there. You ought to end that situation right there. But if the person complies to your boundary, okay, then you can go forward with your relationship. But a lot of times, we won't say anything. I remember I have a silly kind of, I'll say flexible boundary. But what it is I guess because I have done things, I have been the woman in the house, the only female in the house for so long, until, I have my little ways. And when I'm cooking in the kitchen, I don't like anybody to come in there and look in my pots or start staring in my pots. Oh, please don't put anything in there. Like, they may come and stare and want to put some salt in there. That drives me crazy. You understand? And I remember one time I was traveling with my sister, and I was cooking something on the stove. I was cooking spaghetti or something. And, they just came in and started, that thing almost, it's a silly thing. But I have to tell you, I really don't like anybody coming in and doing that kind of thing. And it's funny because I hadn't said anything about, boundaries for a long time. Even when I was in college, I think it's when I first realized I had this little eccentric thing. And I was fixing spaghetti, and she came in, and I like my spaghetti, long spaghetti, yeah. But she came in and took a knife and cut that spaghetti into little pieces like this. I had to hold it. I really did. I didn't confront her about it. We were in college and just, everything, it was fun and whatever. Just leave it on a fun note. and I knew I wouldn't have to live with her, so everything was cool. But see, we all have little things that we don't want people to do. That's why I'm telling you this. We all have little things, but they mean something to you. You see, they may not mean anything to other people. They may think that it's silly, but it means something to you. If it means something to you, then you need to set the boundary. Tell people don't do it. It bothers you in some way. And that's it. That's it. That's how you set your boundaries. Okay? And some people, if they really care about you, they'll comply. You know, maybe you can say it in a joking kind of way, you know, where it won't turn into an argument or hurt somebody's feelings, because being an empath, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You see, that's why an empath has to set boundaries. They don't want to say no. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. They want let's all just be loving. Let's be like the flower children. Love each other, That's the empath. But unfortunately, we are in a universe where there's negative energy. And the negative energy is always going to be stirring up some chaos somewhere. So, I do recommend this book to you. It is a real source of information. Even if you aren't an empath. Even if you don't feel like you are. You know an empath. You know somebody who's an empath. And it's two. 1 and 2. All right. Now, we're talking about setting boundaries. Since we're talking about this manuscript, it talks about understanding your energy. Understanding what it's all about. It talks about coping with a flood of emotions. And empath, we have a way of sucking in everybody's emotions and feeling their pain, and you don't really want to do that. And when you're around crowds, those emotions really can overtake you. These 2 books will help you manage all of that. These 2 books will help you. So I encourage you to pick these up and set your boundaries. And when you set your boundaries, be firm about it. Don't be joking. Don't be, I don't really want you to do that, You say it with confidence. No. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be if you want to be with me. Like that. Straight up. See how they take it? See if they're going to comply with that. Because remember, this man is going to be looking for you to, kind of submit to him in some way. You see? But you can have boundaries. You don't have to go with everything on his program. It's really up to you, ladies. You got to love yourself. And when you love yourself, you won't comply to everything that comes down the line. Just, and let it go. Keep it in. And all of that. I know growing up, I had a way of keeping in a lot of pain. Just holding it inside. But then it would explode. And when it exploded, it was crazy. We don't want things to get like that. We don't want it to get like that. You don't want to hold it in. You want to speak on things when they happen. Let that energy out. Don't let it build up in you, because you want a flow of positive energy all the time coming in and out of you. And you cannot harbor pain and resentment and do that. So don't let these people cross your boundaries. And if they do, depart. You don't have to deal with them. You don't have to deal with them at all. But know yourself, love yourself, and strive to be independent. Independent. Even if you have a partner, strive to be independent, not codependent. A lot of people have problems setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries because they are codependents. When you rely on someone else for your support, they set the rules for you. They set your rules and expect for you to comply as long as you're there. Well, now you strive to be in that position where you set the rules. And then you set the boundaries, especially for yourself. I hope that you understand the message today. And I really hope that it helps someone. I put a link in the description where you can order both these books directly from Amazon. And you know how quick Amazon is. You can have it in a day or so. Now, those of you who have questions that you would like for me to answer, my email is in the description. And also in the description, you will find your affirmation and exercises for today. Just click on that link and it'll shoot you straight there. Now, those of you who are interested in these caps, they are available in my online store. Also, a link in the description. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you for supporting this channel. I wish you all the very best. And I really hope to see you next time.